you're just like gonna let me have this baby, just like leave, like no skill testing question. You're not gonna check in, like you're just here you go, like I'm just gonna leave. And he was like, you're panicking. You want something? There's millions of people that do single parenting all the time. 15-year-old me saw me now. She'd be livid.
How did you feel about becoming a mother?
Was something that I had been trying to do for a couple of years. Didn't have a very straightforward single parent by choice. So it wasn't spontaneous. It was very planned and expensive. So it was something that I was looking forward to. I was hoping for, and it's definitely not a route you go down if you're not sure about parenthood. Something that you really have to want.
What helped you make the decision to go for it?
Just always wanted to have kids. It's just always something that when you're 15 or whatever, younger, you have this plan for what your life's going to be. And then as you start getting older, you start realizing that, oh, it might not turn out the way that you thought in your head, right? And I used to, I still do make this joke about being like, if 15-year-old me saw me now, she'd be livid. She'd be like, doctor? Like, you live in Winnipeg? You didn't go to McGill like all these times? You didn't go to the Olympics for soccer? So it's something that you kind of just think about and it's in your plans, and then time kind of runs out on you and you just decide, I just decided like if this is something I'm gonna do, and I decided that I would rather try doing this myself and then, not. And if it didn't work, then it was kind of like, okay, well, I'll just travel and be awesome. And don't get me wrong, I'm still awesome, but I just don't have the travel aspect that I used to. So people don't say anything. Yeah, maybe they do say something, but like if you're a 16-year-old girl that gets pregnant and decides to do it alone, right? Then, for some reason it has a different, don't get me wrong, 16 is not an ideal time. Find that people find it different, right? Like if that's an acceptable form of having a kid because you're dumb and you didn't know any better or whatever. But when you do it by yourself, I noticed that a lot of people are just like, well, why would you do that? Oh yeah. So I find it very, very interesting. People say it's brave. It's like, well, if you want something, there's millions of people that do single parenting all the time. So I just had more control over when and how it happened than say somebody who was maybe younger or didn't made up some sort of mistake. It ends up probably being the best mistake ever made. But yeah, I just had more control over it.
Has motherhood been what you thought it would be?
It was much different than I thought. I didn't think it was going to be easy. It was going to be hard, and the sleep deprivation at the beginning is something else. It is lining up. And what I thought is it's hard to quantify hard though, right? When people say like it's really hard, and it's like, well, what is hard? It's it is shaping up to be awesome, great. I am really enjoying it. Forget. You forget a lot of the hard parts pretty quickly, which is probably why people do it more than once. Because if you remembered what you went through in the first, labor or the first 6 weeks, I don't know if anyone would do it again, but you forget pretty quickly. So, but yeah, it's been great. I ended up, I got induced and then it ended up being a C-section after about 19 hours labor. And I remember thinking like, yeah, like I'm not going to do this naturally. Like there's no, I'm not, because a lot of people are like, oh, I did natural. Well, that's great. I'm not doing that. And I remember saying like, yeah, you need to give me drugs. And like, it's too early. I was like, I like, let me know in a second that I can get them because I need them.
Who would you say has taught you the most about motherhood?
Obviously, my own mom. She's the best example I have. And she's been there she's been there since I was born. It's crazy. She, you do what you know. Well, she obviously would have to be the top one. Have older sister, four older sisters who are parents, and so 9 nieces and nephews. So they would also be high up on there of showing me how it's done, and it's probably easier for me to see what they do than what my mom does, right? Because my mom drives me crazy half the time, right? And she doesn't know what she's talking about, whatever. But what, unfortunately for her, when I see my sisters, then I'm just like, oh, look at what they're doing. That's interesting, whatever. And I kind of maybe don't give my mom the credit that's due, but yeah, they're, all of them would be.
Was there a mom that you most wanted to be like growing up?
I was wrong. You just have friends, friends' parents that you see, and you're just like, oh, their parents are way better than my parents. Their parents let them do X, Y, Z, or it looks like they have this great life that you don't know anything about, and or you think you know. And then the older you get, the wiser you get. Perspective definitely changes. So, yeah, I definitely did have some friends, moms that I was like, they're the best mom ever. And then yeah, the older I got, I was like, oh, they're not the best mom ever. It's like, my mom's the best mom ever. So it did, yeah, it wasn't what I thought. From the outside looking in, it looked great. And then in retrospect, I should probably see my mom. I should apparently mom there.
Are you the mom you thought you were going to be?
In 4 months. So I'm gonna say that I'm not even sure yet if she's still alive. So that's a win. She seems very happy and healthy, and so far I think I'm on track. But I haven't really got to. She doesn't talk back yet. She hasn't figured out how to lie or manipulate a situation, except for the crying whenever I leave. So I think it's too early to tell. So there's still a lot of room to grow either way.
Has anything in motherhood surprised you so far?
Really, I'm pretty comfortable with babies. I have always been pretty comfortable with babies. It is different when it's yours. Yeah, the fatigue thing, that is that's something again you can't describe. I think I thought maybe maternity leave would be a little bit more social than it is. Right? I have some friends with babies and they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna hang out. And it's kind of like all the stuff's here. I'm exhausted, and it's like, you do want to come here? No. Do you want to come here? No. Okay. Right. So it is a little bit, um, I don't want to say the word isolating. I worried it would be isolating. And I don't feel isolated, but it is a little bit lonelier than maybe you expect.
Who are the biggest players in your support network?
My mother and my sister. I have one sister that lives here the rest of the way. And so my sister has actually made me food constantly. She's basically keeping me fed, so that's quite nice. That's one thing I don't have to worry about. So yeah, those two are probably the most, my parents, and yeah, let's get my sisters, the other sisters from check in. My nieces have flown in, nieces and nephews to visit. Okay.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a big one, having someone provide food for you.
It is, and it's really good because like it's not just like one meal. She'll make like 3 different meals for me, so I get how variety. I could like this. So yeah, it is.
Oh, that's huge.
It's lovely. Yeah, I'm not gonna complain at all. So, even if it's something I don't, she's like, "Did you like it?" And I was like, I'm eating it. I didn't make it. Whatever.
How would you say motherhood has changed you personally?
Having thought about doing it for so long, kind of knew. See, I like to adventure. I like traveling. I like just dropping into a country, not knowing basically where I'll sleep that night. So that's not happening anymore. So that is quite a huge change, and that is part of my personality, right? Just, you know, going here, there, everywhere is kind of pretty random. Like, fly to Hong Kong for 4 days, and like,
Oh, yeah.
so yeah, that's a huge change. So that is going to be a life change. People talk about going to Mexico or whatever for winter. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not doing that for a while. That's like maybe a no. Before that was a little bit selfish, and now I don't have that option. Or I could do that, but I don't want to be a terrible parent. So, in my opinion, it's not really fair to her, right? Having her have to change her whole routine when she's just figuring life out so that I can like hang out somewhere. So yeah, so that's a huge change, that a lifestyle change that will be ongoing for a while.
Would you say that motherhood has changed the way you see your own mom?
Oh, yes, so much. And I told her, so I feel like I've done my due diligence. You know, your parents love you. You know that. But yeah, until you have your own, you don't like actually get it. It's also interesting because I don't know what I'm doing, right? I just like guess and I hope I'm doing it right. I think it's kind of funny. It's like, oh, my mom didn't know what she was doing either. She still doesn't know what she's doing. Just make it up. I did mention to her, and I was like, I didn't get it before, but I get it now. Get it. So yeah, definitely has changed, you know, how I view her. Humbling experience, right? To realize, oh, so I don't know what I'm doing, but nobody knows what they're doing. I'm like, oh, okay. Things I said a couple weeks before I had my daughter. I was at the OB's, and I was, you're just like gonna let me have this baby, just like leave, like no skill testing question. You're not gonna check anything, like you're just, here you go, like I'm just gonna leave. And he was like, you're panicking. It's like, but yes, that's exactly what happened. I was like, so anyone could just do this, and you're just gonna, you have no idea how they're gonna treat this child, and he was like, well, the public health nurse will come visit. And I was like, but I mean, I feel like you need a license to drive a car, and you're just gonna let me have a whole human. And he's like, yeah, like it's crazy. Like you just let anyone do this, ultimately. So it's
Yeah.
weird. It's weird.
Has motherhood changed the way that you see your community?
Definitely. I'm biracial, so Jamaican and mixed. And so when I was younger, there wasn't a lot of people that looked like me. She's also biracial. And so it definitely is something that I did notice when I was a kid, and now I'm noticing more. That it's just like, okay, it's better now. There are more people that look like her. There are books and options, but it is something that I look at. It's like, oh, is she gonna have to go through the same struggles that I had to? How far have we actually moved with the whole race aspect? So I definitely think about that. Like, okay, if I put her in a daycare, is anyone gonna look like her? Are people gonna treat her differently because of how she looks? So, what kind of school that she'll be in, that kind of stuff. So most definitely, I'm I have always been aware of it, but now I'm more aware of it for her, right? Because I'm old enough I can handle things, but I don't want her to have to, I don't want to be a helicopter parent, but I prefer her to have an easier time than maybe I did or people before me did.
What is one of the hardest lessons you've had to learn since becoming a mom?
There's a lot of lessons every day. I'm very independent. I like to do things for myself, by myself, when I want to, how I want to. And this is something that it's not something that you can really do by yourself, all by yourself, without any help, exactly how you want, when you want. So that has definitely been a learning curve, learning to realize when you need help, ask for it, accept it when it's offered. So that has been a big change, because I just want to, like, I can do it, it's fine. And in a lot of situations, it's like, I can't do it, I need someone help me. So that's definitely been something. Because it's just easier to do it by yourself, right? And just like, oh, I could ask this person, then I have to come and do it. And it's just like, I'll just do it. And then it's done. And it's done the way I want it, how I want it, right? And motherhood is not like that. Because you can want something, this plan, and your child is like, yeah, we're not going to do that. And you have to learn. And it's definitely not easy. So yeah, you do definitely need to change. Independence and being, doing everything yourself is not really gonna work out. Some things, but it's not really gonna work out the way it used to.
What has been your proudest moment of motherhood so far?
Getting home after C-section and keeping her alive. When they say like, oh, by the way, and single parent or mine, you can't drive for 6 weeks, you can't lift anything for 6 weeks, you can't, right? And I was like, I'm a single parent. Like, what exactly do you think I'm gonna do here? Like, that's really not it's really not feasible. So yeah, just getting through that fog of healing from a major surgery, life change of now I have to keep like this small thing alive that does not tell me at all what the problem is, right? So yeah, just basic survival, getting out on the other side. And I mean, I'm not done yet, but his mother knows that 6 weeks. Wow.
If you could go back and tell yourself something before you became a mom, what would it be?
Do it earlier. Don't wait. Don't wait. Just do it. Big decision, obviously, right? And you're always worried. And if you think, you weighing pros and cons and whatever, if you are always going to weigh pros and cons, you're going to do nothing, right? Nothing's ever going to get done. And you're going to waste time. Things work out the way it's supposed to. And, she's the child I was supposed to have. So if it had been earlier, it would have been a different child. But just jump in, feet earlier. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's lovely. That's what I look like. I can even tell it's me.
Yeah. Oh, good. That's good. I hope it's okay that I went a little bit bolder with the color, but
purple's my favorite.
good. I was kind of hoping that you were wearing a purple shirt.
It's my
I thought it was
favorite
gonna be
color.
oh, good.
Oh, lovely.
And that is for you.
Thank you. Yes, we hear you.
Yes. Who's this? Who's that?
Do you recognize this lady?
Is that Mama?
Your mommy?
Is it? She's like, oh, there's two of you.